Good afternoon, Central Oregon and beyond. This is Josh coming at you with episode 4 of Apres Chats, my podcast all about Central Oregon sports, outdoors, and beyond. Out here in Central Oregon, we love getting outside to play, whether we're up on the mountain skiing, getting out on the lakes and rivers, out to the rocks to climb, whatever it is that you're into, we all love getting outside to play. And afterwards, we love coming down to the local watering hole with the crew and having a little Apres Chats. On today's episode, I'm sitting down with Matthias Giraud. I apologize if I said that horribly. I actually struggle to say his name quite a bit, but you might know him better as Super Frenchie Official. This man I like to describe as Central Oregon's version of a French Shane McConkey. He's a super fun dude, and I got to sit down with him and have a really cool conversation about a lot that he's achieved with his career, some of his future goals, and a whole lot more. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, it's time to sit back, crack a cold one, and get ready for some Apres Chats. Good morning, Central Oregon and beyond. This is Josh coming at you with another episode of Apres Chats. Today, it is a beautiful sunny day up here on Mount Bachelor. We're hanging out at the race lodge, and I've got Super Frenchie here with me, Matthias Giraud. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, close. Matthias Giraud.
All right.
But yeah, that's cool. You did a really good job for the first try.
All right. Do you prefer Matthias, Matty, Super Frenchie?
Matthias is fine, or Super Frenchie, whatever you prefer. That's generally the two names people use.
Fair enough. So I know you. I've known you locally for a while. I've seen a lot of your videos. You are, in my mind, a crazy French man who jumps off of very tall things. But how would you self-describe yourself?
I'm simply a mountain athlete, and I combine, skiing and base jumping. That's how I jump off stuff. But for me, it's combining mountain disciplines. I try to focus on a journey through the mountains. So now, the last few years, I grew up ski racing, then I moved on to free skiing competitions and jumping cliffs and doing flips and stuff like that, right? And then I started skiing bigger lines and then climbing mountains and then blowing my knees, of course, doing jumps. And I've always wanted to base jump and ski base jump since I was 9 years old. When I moved to the US, I met Shane McConkey. He gave me some pointers on how to get started. And then, after 20 base jumps, I started ski base jumping right away. And my first ski base jump ended up being a first ski base jump on Mount Hood. And so I kind of fell into the business of doing a lot of firsts. So I generally look for mountains that are, famous or not. It doesn't matter. Just mountains that inspire me, that I want to ski and hopefully jump off and fly away. And for me, the combination of alpinism, steep skiing, and base jumping, which I've been able to accomplish in the last few years, is really the apogee of what I'm seeking. And I'm finally getting there after... it's been 16 years of ski base jumping. So
that's amazing, man.
Now I can finally ski those gnarly lines that I've been looking at for 10 plus years in the Alps, and it feels really good.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love that. That's a great synopsis there, actually. Just quickly, where did the name Super Frenchie come from? Was that a self-given name, or did a friend start calling you that?
I wish I could be pompous enough to have given myself that name. No, it's funny. I had just moved to the U.S. I moved to Durango, Colorado, January 2004. So I could go to school at Fort Lewis College. And I worked at the ski resort Purgatory, and they started sponsoring me to do extreme comps and stuff. And they had a big air competition, and I didn't do much park at the time, but I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll enter it just for fun, right? At the time, I was still, doing tricks almost on a daily basis. I was like, if I can do that in the backcountry, I'll do that off a kicker. That's fine, And I don't know, man, I dropped in and I was just on fire, just doing switch backflips at the time. It was, now it's nothing. But back in the day, I'm 40 years old. So
I mean, hey, I still don't do that stuff.
People weren't doing that much stuff. There were guys throwing like cork 7s and rodeo 720s and misty flips and stuff. But I just did simple tricks, but I went really big doing it. Yeah. And one guy had brought a French flag and he tied it around my neck. And I was like, oh, it looks like a cape. And so I dropped in and I did a Superman front flip off the big air right over the crowd and stomped my landing like crazy. And then I grabbed the snowmobile rope to get back up for another run, right? And then the MC leans next to me and he goes, And ladies and gentlemen, here comes number 73, Super Frenchie. The crowd went apeshit. I dropped in, did another Superman front flip, stomped my landing again, and since then that nickname stuck around.
Dude, that is such a good origin story. Oh my God.
And it's funny. Well, and if you think about it, you know, most people in the U.S. struggle pronouncing my name. It's a very European name.
Yeah.
Mathias Giraud is the French name, French way of saying it. So I've Americanized it a little bit with Matthias Giraud, because you say Matthias in Scandinavia or Germany.
Right.
My mother's Dutch, my dad's French. In Holland, they say Matthias, you know, or Matthijs, sorry. And so anyway, so I was like, Super Frenchie, I think, was just easier for people to remember than Matthias, you know, because nobody could pronounce it. A lot of people call me Matt, but that's about it. So yeah, that's how Super Frenchie was born.
That is awesome. And then I was reading up on your bio a little bit this morning. So you started skiing when you were what, like 2 years old?
Yeah, I started skiing at 18 months.
18 months, yeah.
Yeah, right in front of the chalet of my parents in the Alps. And
where at in the Alps were you originally from?
A little place called Saint-Gervais. It's only a small mountain town of 4,000 people, but it's 40 minutes from Chamonix. Actually, Mont Blanc, the highest peak in Western Europe, is technically, the summit is in the town of Saint-Gervais, not in Chamonix. So
Gotcha.
I grew up on the west flank of Mont Blanc, facing the whole mountain range. And
that's such a cool place to grow up.
It's it's for me, it's my favorite mountain in the world. That's why I have it tattooed across my back.
Nice. And I take it your parents were probably skiers, and I imagine everyone in that village was probably a skier.
So I was just, I lived there part-time. I was just a tourist at first. And my parents started skiing really late. My dad was born in southwest of France. He was born in 1939. He was a war kid. He still remembers the Nazis walking down the street. That's how
insane.
Old my dad is. And my mother is Dutch, so no mountains in Holland.
Yeah.
And they both started skiing really late in, like, you know, late 30s, early 40s. And but they fell in love with the mountains. And they purchased a vacation home in the Alps, but then we spent every summer, every holiday over there. And then they moved to south of France. And because we were living in Normandy at first, it's a 7 or 8 hour drive, so we couldn't go there all the time.
Yeah.
Then they moved to south of France, and it was only a 4 hour drive. So then we went there all the time. And then in the summers too, they would just put me in, you know, in a family in the Alps. Like, friends would just have me for the summer, and I would work at their farm. So I just, you know, since I was like 4, so I became a mountain kid like that.
That's amazing.
And then eventually my parents could not afford their house anymore, so they sold it. But by then I was like, I want to live in the mountains. So I was accepted in ski academy at 11 in the Alps in Chamonix.
Nice.
But my parents didn't want to let me go because they felt I was a little too young. So I kept competing in national championships through the ski team, an urban ski team from the city of Nîmes in south of France. So we take a bus every Friday night, arrive in the mountain like 6 in the morning, race all day Saturday, race all day Sunday, come back home Sunday night at midnight, do my homework, and go to school, wake up at 6 in the morning to go to school. So it's just too much. But I managed to place in national championships doing that. And that was enough to get accepted at another ski team in the town of Saint-Gervais, where I grew up. Yeah. Part-time. And then I moved in with some friends that became pretty much my foster family. And then I left home at the age of 13 to ski. And I spent Christmas with my mountain parents from 13 to 19. And so I became a mountain kid by adoption, by resilience, passion, and devotion.
That's amazing, dude. Yeah. I love that. That's a really cool way to get into it. And so you mentioned, though, that you moved to Colorado first. Was your first spot in the United States?
Yeah, exactly.
And you went over there for college then?
I went to school, yeah. I moved to the U.S. to go to school because it was one of the only places in the world where actually I could go to school full-time and ski almost every day.
It's a good place for that.
Yeah, and it was, you know, I didn't know... I always had the dream of being a pro skier someday, but it was just not... I didn't think it was going to happen, actually. And had an American friend who worked with Purgatory, the ski resort. And he was like, hey, man, I can help you move to the U.S. He pretty much became my mentor. And he was like, work for us part-time, go to school there, and then get your business degree and ski every day. But when I moved there, then Sven Brunso, who's a big pro skier, has been around for 30 years. And Sven was the director of sales and marketing at the ski resort. And he saw me at that big air competition. He took pictures, and then I started shooting with local photographers. and then shooting with Sven. And within 3 months, then I was just sponsored head to toes while going to school.
That's
and
amazing.
In the ski area. Yeah, it was really cool. And so, yeah, it's pretty much Colorado was a fast track to accomplishing my professional goals while still having an education.
That's very cool.
And so, yeah.
What did you go to college for?
Business administration with resort and tourism management.
Nice.
So, because I went to business school in France, I was in really good business school with an integrated master. So it was like a 5-year business school. But then I transferred to a liberal arts school in Colorado. But I figured, applied studying and building your educational and professional lexical field, right?
Yeah.
Being able to work at the ski area, go to school, get good grades, ski, become a pro skier. Then I started skydiving on the side. It didn't look like there was any correlation in it, but I could actually build my own career.
That's so cool, man.
Because there was not one way to do it, right?
No.
And
I feel like everyone kind of has to find their own way.
Exactly. Exactly. And so that Colorado enabled me to do that. And I'm 40 years old. I'm still living my childhood dreams.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
At what point in that journey did you meet Shane McConkey then?
So Shane, I met him in 2005.
Had you already started getting into the idea of base jumping and skydiving, or was he kind of entrance into that world for you?
So I'm going to have to backtrack a bit. My dad, had to do his military service when he was in France, and that military service was canceled when I was 16, which normally you have to do at 18. So I got lucky. I didn't have to do it, but my dad had to do it. But he loved it. But he was taken in a commando unit. So he was a paratrooper. He did like 100 jumps. So I grew up with his skydiving stories. My sister is an engineer in aeronautics. She was a licensed pilot at 15 years old. My grandpa worked at the airport of Orly in Paris. So we kind of have this aeronautical family. So I was obsessed with parachutes since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I saw my first ski base jumping images at 9 years old in a French movie. And these were some of the images actually that inspired Shane later on to base jump as well, into ski base jump.
Wow.
And then when I moved to the US, I already knew I wanted to base jump, skydive, ski base. But then I didn't know who Shane was actually. Because I knew more of the French pro skiers at the time.
Right.
It's not like we didn't
and it
really
wasn't
have
like social media back then.
Exactly. We didn't have like videos all over YouTube and internet and things like that. And we kind of had a French production companies, and I didn't know what Matchstick Production was or TGR, right? And then it was before YouTube blew up, because YouTube I think blew up in 2007, 8 or something like that.
Mid 2000s.
Yes, it was just before. And but I moved there, and then a kid on campus heard me talking about ski base jumping with another guy, and he's like, "Hey, come check this out." So I went to his dorm, and he plugged in this movie, and he was focused from Matchstick Production.
Oh, that's such a good one.
And he plugged in the segment of Shane opening with skiing the line that doesn't go, and does this ski base jump, this front flip off this 600-foot cliff with a perfect opening. And I was like, oh my God, this guy actually does the modern version of what I want to do, because it's the first time I saw somebody mixing total free skiing with skiing a full line with base jumping.
Yeah.
The ski base jumps I saw before was just a quick ramp
just the
to a
takeoff,
cliff. Exactly. And it was still cool, right? But Shane really mastered the free skiing aspect. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, this guy instantly became a hero. And then, so fast forward a year later, I'm at SIA in Vegas, which was the big ski trade show at the time.
Right.
And I'm there with Shane McConkey. I'm there with Sven Brunso, sorry. And I'm at the booth of my ski sponsor. And then Sven goes, "Hey, Frenchie, come and meet me at the Powder magazine booth." Powder was still around.
Right.
So I go there, and then I see Sven talking with somebody. And he was a short guy with an Oakley backpack and a hoodie on. And then Sven goes, "All right, Shane McConkey, Frenchie, Shane McConkey." And then Shane turns around and is like, "Hey man, how you doing?" Shakes my hand, and we started talking, and he was just fully present, looking at you in the eyes, incredibly welcoming, warm person. We talked for a good 30 minutes, told him he was obviously, that sounded like probably every idiot at the trade show telling him that he's their hero. And
I mean, I would have too,
I'm like you, I have so much respect for what you do. I've been dreaming of ski base jumping since I was a child, and he's like, "Oh man, you're from the Alps, so you know, big terrain and stuff like that. And I've gone ski base jumping there. I love it." He had just gone back, I think, from filming Yearbook, and he was like super stoked,
Yeah.
And so anyway, we talked about ski base jumping, and he gave me a ton of pointers in my first winter being sponsored, and he gave me pointers on how to manage my career, how to, manage that, how to help it grow, how to have the right mindset, and then gave me pointers on how to get ready and to prepare for base jumping and how to start base jumping. And
cool.
then I didn't talk to him for a little bit. And then I did my first ski base jump off Mount Hood in 2008. But I called Shane just the night before. And he was like, oh, good luck, man. I looked for a ski base jump on Mount Hood for 6 years and never found anything. He's like, but yeah. And then I was like, I think I found something. It looks big enough. And he's like, all right, hit it like a normal ski jump, pull your parachutes, and don't die. And I was like, all right. So these are one of the only pointers I got from Shane. And then I ski base jumped it, called him, and then he was like, wow, you ski base jump Mount Hood, you found something? He's like, yeah. And then that thing blew up. The next day I'm on Good Morning America, CNN headline news. Good.
Dude, that's so cool.
Best video of the year on CNN headline news. And it was really cool. And since then, Shane and I then talked every week.
Wow.
He gave me so many pointers. He actually gave me a pointer on how to recover from a bad situation on a front flip. And a year later, Shane died, and I had that accident happen on the front flip. The case scenario we talked about on the phone one day for an hour. And the pilot chute with the little bridle got wrapped around my arm when I pulled my parachute. And and I remember Shane saying, like, move your arm. So I moved my arm, and I opened, I'm not kidding, like 20 feet off the ground, above the ground.
That's crazy,
and
man.
so that time that Shane took to talk every week saved my life, and so Shane changed my life,
That's awesome. I mean, I was going to ask you about, inspirations for base jumping and skiing and everything. I kind of assumed it would have been Shane McConkey up there in that list, but
yeah,
that's
Shane
really
definitely
cool.
Shane definitely in the top 3, I would say.
I know, he changed a lot of our lives as ski bums, I think, but to have that close connection to him that's friggin' rad.
Yeah,
man.
I feel super fortunate. And then then later on met Sherry, and met his daughter, and I have so much admiration for Sherry that she's carrying on the legacy of her husband and his name and all that. And I try, I do some speaking engagements here and there, and every time I do a speaking engagement, I have a donation to the Shane McConkey Foundation as a way to not forget the man,
Yeah.
And it's good environmental programs and youth programs too, so it's a good way to give back to the guy who helped me.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I love that. So, all that was going on, and you ended up jumping Hood and everything, but you were in Colorado for a while. What ended up bringing you out to Central Oregon and Bend?
Oh, man, it was, so my roommate in Durango was from Bend.
Oh, cool.
So I kept hearing about Bend, here and there, and that it was a cool place. And then after I graduated college, I was on a semi-pro level. I was making some money from skiing, but I couldn't make a living off of that. And my ski clothing sponsor at the time, they'd been sponsoring me for a long time. They were a big brand from France, and they needed a rep for the Northwest. Oh, cool. And they asked me, they're like, yeah, get a business degree, the brand better than anybody else. Why don't you rep? And I was like, I don't want to be a rep. Like, I grew up making fun of reps when I work in a ski shop,
I know, right?
And then they were like, no, man, we'll get you a vehicle and take care of the territory. You can't just come to trade shows, try to meet the sales goals, and do what you can to grow the territory. And I was like, and my travel budget's paid for? They were like, yeah. And so I was like, all right, done. So then I moved to the Northwest. My ex was going to school at a program in Spokane at the time. It was one of the only programs she could do in the country. And so I was based out of there, but I was just traveling all the time. And so I started traveling to Oregon a lot. And that's how I ended up ski base jumping Mount Hood, coming to Bend, spending more time here, reconnected with my old roommate here. And then, and then I was like, man, this place is pretty cool. And then, fast forward a few years later, I ended up moving here. So
very cool. Yeah, it's a good place to be.
Yeah, for sure. It's a good place to be, for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, we don't have like quite the extreme steeps as the Alps and all that stuff for jumping off of, but have you found some fun stuff to jump off of around here?
There's stuff, yeah, I do. I have one ski base jump here. I have a few cliffs where I can practice. There's not a ton, but it's fun. And as far as skiing, it's different. Like the Alps are legendary. People come from all over the place, all over the world to ski the Alps, but we don't have the snow we have here. Right. We have such good snow here. We have so much snow. And I always say you ski the Alps for the terrain, but you ski the US for the snow.
Fair enough.
And Bend is really a great example of that, because we have super fun, playful terrain with a lot of snow. We ski really late. The season is over in the Alps unless you go mountaineering, but the ski resorts are closed, and Yeah, it's there's not many places where you can have this quality of life. You know, you can do everything here. Go rock climbing, boats, still have like a town, like a real town life, while living. Bend is a cool place because it's not a mountain town, but it's a full town near the mountains. So you get everything.
It is, yeah. I always like to tell people, I don't think there's a single sport I can think of that you can't do in some capacity within like a 1 hour drive of here.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's probably why we have such a broad range of extremely good athletes here, because
it's kind of amazing.
Yeah, we have just enough altitude to train for, you know, endurance well.
Yeah.
We have distances, we have great weather, and really a variety of terrain.
Yeah.
So you have amazing athletes from, you know, Adam Craig to, you know, like Sage for skiing, and then you had, and many others like, you know,
the
Max
Ferguson
King
brothers and stuff.
Yeah, Ferguson brothers,
yeah.
like snowboarders, skiers, runners, climbers, like kayakers. There's everything here.
It's insane. It's kind
awesome.
of wild, actually. Sometimes when you stop and think about it.
For sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned going back into the Alps, and we were talking briefly right before we started recording. You've got a mission going back to the Alps in June this year to do some mountaineering. Are there any specific objectives you're looking at this season?
Yeah, I generally don't like to talk about the exact objectives specifically before doing it, to not add additional pressure. But I have a broad range of firsts that I'm trying to do in the Alps, and I'm slowly chipping in my list. You know, I
very cool.
Ski based from the Eiger, which I wasn't the first, but I was the fourth.
You were the first to do the Trinity, though, right?
Yeah, I was the first to do Eiger, Matterhorn, and Mont Blanc. Yeah.
Has anybody else done all three yet, or are you still alone in that one?
Nobody ski based the Matterhorn aside from me. It was a close call too. I should have died, but so I think that probably deterred a lot of people from trying. But I pulled it off.
Nice.
I didn't get hurt.
You're still here. You're talking to me now.
Yeah,
so.
No, I lost a ski on the exit and hit a rock and went cartwheeling in the North Face, but I managed to pull my parachute and flip around my lines as my parachute was opening, but then had a good opening and flew back in the valley, so it was good.
Kind of terrifying, but also really awesome.
It was more like a cowboy jump. But the Mont Blanc jump, I waited 8 years for it. It took 2 days to climb it. I jumped off the Serac. A Serac is an ice wall. Okay. I skied the North Face, 1,500 feet with knee-deep powder, bluebird, no wind, waited for these conditions for almost a decade.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we got it, jumped off the Serac, flew back down the glacier, opened my parachute, flew back down the glacier. But since then, when I hear Americans saying that global warming doesn't exist, it's like, well, go to the Alps because our mountains are shrinking. The glaciers are receding so much. And that particular jump, so I jumped it in 2019. And 2020 or 2021, 2 years after, I think 2020, there was a break in COVID, and they allowed people to climb. And my buddy went up there, and the Serac broke and receded probably at least 100 feet. So I skied that line actually last June from the summit, and you can't jump it anymore. So
that's insane.
There's other things that I'm looking at on the Mont Blanc mountain range, but that particular line from the summit that jump is not doable anymore.
That's crazy. I mean, I feel like I notice it here even. Like, it seems like the weather's always just kind of shifting a little bit later into the season, and we don't get the same start to the season we do, and then we tend to ski a lot more powder in May than I ever did growing up.
100%. And I think the patterns are changing, and I think the ski industry needs to change with that. Yeah. Just like in the Alps, we struggle in March. Yeah. But April and May, we have amazing conditions now. So it's almost like maybe put things on hold a little bit, and then and the opening. We used to start skiing the Alps, because it goes high, but we start skiing at a lower elevation, right? You ski all the way down to 3,000 feet sometimes. So we didn't start skiing until early December, or even 2 weeks before Christmas. Now they're barely able to open for Christmas, so maybe open January 1st and close June 1st. Yeah.
It's, it's all shifting. We kind of have to adapt to it if we want to keep this sport alive at all.
100%. So, I mean, it's not our decision. It's the mountains decide. So we got to adapt.
Mother Nature is always in charge.
Well, we're just a species, we just got to adapt to our environment. And it's, it's funny because I don't necessarily even like the word nature by itself, because it creates a detachment from our species. Right. It's almost like nature is like this separate entity from us. It's like, no, dude, we're part of this thing. So we're part of all this whole biodome, this little bubble, So just adapt to how the bubble is functioning.
I love that. I like that perspective on it. Yeah. So aside from, I'm not going to ask too many more about the objectives that you have, so you don't have to get specific about it. But what other Do you kind of stay in the mountaineering mindset through the whole summer, or do you kind of shift gears or do any other summer sports at all in between seasons?
Well, it's always kind of, I mean, for me, base jumping is a mountaineering discipline, but sometimes, I go do jump off bridges, and I do some skydiving to train, especially I fly wingsuits a little bit. I'm average plus with it, but I'm not.
You did the first crossing of the Columbia on a wingsuit, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I did. It was a long time ago. I jumped out of a paraglider, paramotor over white salmon, did a double front flip, opened my wingsuit, flew across the Columbia Gorge, and I landed on the beach in Hood River.
I was trying to figure out, when I read about that, I was trying to figure out what you jumped off of to make that happen.
It was like a full-on flying circus. It was really funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you just kind of stay honed in and find things to jump off all summer.
Yeah, I rock climb more and more by default. I'm not a great rock climber, but I manage enough of a high grade to handle approaches, especially when I'm mountaineering or in alpinism, things like that. So I rock climb more and more just because I have to climb to access things to jump off more and more. Totally. And sometimes you don't have a rope, so you got to figure it out, Yeah. So I do more of that. I used to surf the river quite a bit, but I haven't in a while, so I need to go back at it. And then, but yeah, summer, I ski all the way until July. So summer's pretty short for me.
I get that. I do that turns all year stuff, so I don't really stop skiing ever. I just kind of do other stuff on the side.
Yeah, exactly. And then, things come up. Like I think I get to go to Canada this summer for a shoot with a sponsor, more like a lifestyle kind of thing. And then you always have a business trip come up, but then also spend time to do stuff with my son. Last summer we went to France for 3 weeks, and vacation, with him, stepmom and me, had a great time. Went to the Alps, went to the coast, went skateboarding in Paris. It was really cool.
Sounds like a great trip.
I have to spend some time, when I'm home, I try to be as present as I can to spend time with my son, but I'm training. I have a very monotonous life where I wake up, train, work, spend time with my kid, eat, and go to bed and do it all over again.
I mean, that's it. A lot of people look at the life of a professional skier and, mountain person, and they think, oh, they're up playing in the mountains all the time. They're living the best life. And in a lot of ways we are. It's our dream to be out here doing this, but it's a lot of work to be able to do it, and a lot of work to keep it going.
The thing is, you're always on vacation, but you're never on vacation.
Yeah.
You're always working. You're never disconnecting. Your wheels are always turning in your head.
And you take a trip, you're thinking about the content that you might be filming on it, or the shoots.
And there's this, and it's also the role of an athlete has changed over the last, I would say, 10 years. Before, you'd slap on a logo and do cool shit, right? Yeah. It's still part of it, but now, the role of an athlete, especially if you want to have longevity and to be successful at it, is to be a multifaceted consultant.
Yeah.
You're an advertising agency because you get them on TV shows, you get viral videos, stuff like that. You're also endorsing the brand. So there's, use of name and image as an athlete, but you're also testing gear. You're giving input sometimes on marketing strategies to achieve their goals. You help them implement some of that stuff. So you do a bunch of different things, and you have to be kind of like this multi tool that brands you wear the hat of a professional athlete, but you're able to do many things. And that's what really will help athletes have longevity. Like Glenn Plake is a great example of that.
Oh, he's an amazing example.
And he's not recycled. He's expended his career to ski mountaineering, alpinism. He's taken very seriously in Chamonix. He skied stuff that only a few people have skied. He is solid, but he's also involved in product development, marketing, a ton of stuff. And he's also the icon of the sport. So he does a great job at showing what an athlete has to do to stay relevant.
He really does, yeah. I mean, you talk about people who have lasted the test of time in the ski industry. He is definitely one of the best, if not the best at that.
100%. And my first year at SIA before meeting Shane was my first time meeting Glenn, actually.
Nice. Is he as goofy and nice in person as he seems in everything you see him in?
Glenn is amazing. Yeah. We used to be, I've been with Lecky for 20 years, so we share Lecky as a sponsor, and we've had a bunch of overlapping sponsors over the years. We've done some projects together, ski shoots and stuff, and he came to my house and had breakfast and dinner with my family. Like, he's super chill, very... You recognize the guy, right? He's got a diamond in his tooth and a mohawk.
I know
what I mean?
It's hard to not pick him out of a crowd.
But he is so chill.
Yeah.
And very as far as his level of recognition goes, he's very unassuming at the same time, which sounds really weird for somebody you can notice this much. He's so chill, so down to earth.
That's awesome.
And the first time I met him, actually, I thanked him because he was the mentor of Sven Brunso. And Sven mentored me to get my career going, explained me how to manage my career or how to work with brands.
Yeah.
And so I thanked Glenn the first time I met him. I say, hey, thanks for mentoring Sven, because he's mentoring me now, and I'm starting to be able to, live the dream. So thank you.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love that. Well, shout out Glenn Flake on that one. If he ever happens to listen to this.
I'll send him the link if you want.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Cool. So you mentioned, you've got a son. How old's your kid?
My son is 11 years old.
Do you get him up skiing too much? Or?
Yeah, he skis. He loves skiing. He snowboards too. He loves snowboarding. I taught him to snowboard actually because I was a ski instructor in the Alps, and you have to ski and snowboard. You have to do both. So
I'm trying to learn to snowboard this year. It's not going particularly well, but I'm putting an effort in.
Snowboarding is fun, man. I love snowboarding.
It's cool. I bought a board. I just haven't really gotten out on it too much, but
yeah, do it. It's a good time, And I grew up surfing too, so I love surfing. So it's kind of like but he's a big skateboarder, so obviously there was a natural transition. But he's a really good skier. And also, but I'm not putting any pressure on him as far as skiing goes.
You want him to find his own way.
Yeah, and growing up in the Alps, a lot of my buddies in the ski team were, their parents were ex-national French ski team or ex-world champions or Olympians, and they had all these social pressure from all the mountain people to live up to the reputation of their parents.
Right.
Like, oh, he's the son or daughter, or she's the daughter of so-and-so. Of course, they're going to be a world record holder or world champion or French ski team. And all of these kids were burnt out by the age of 15.
Yeah, when you put that pressure on their shoulders at such a young age.
Exactly. And so I don't want to pass on that pressure to Soren. And that's why I'm like, skiing's for fun. Yeah. If you want to pursue that and push it hard, I will help you. I will put you in Super Frenchie boot camp. I will make that happen. But if you don't have the desire, I won't do that. But whatever you have the desire to do, I'm going to push you as hard as I can, because it's important to have a passion, a vocation, a sense of dedication. It's what gives meaning to life. Yeah. And
that is such a good mindset to have as a parent.
He has found that he loves skateboarding. He doesn't have the aspiration to be a pro skater, but he was a little bit at one point, but kids change all the time. He loves science. He's really good in math. My buddy is a biochemist. It took him to work one day, and he was like mixing stuff, and he loves it. So I think he wants to go in the science route.
But, that's awesome.
But he can still drop vert on a skateboard, and he loves it. So it's awesome.
Does he like to jump off things as much as you do?
He's very curious. He wants to skydive. He wants to base jump. Nice. I'm taking him bungee jumping actually soon because he's heavy enough. So we're going to do that.
Perfect.
But again, I'm not.
You're not going to push him into it.
It's easy to be influenced by your environment, which he obviously is. When he was like 3 years old, I'd be packing my parachute in the living room. For him, it's normal, right? And he sees videos of his dad jumping off stuff and all that, and it's normal for him. But you have to have the intrinsic desires to do dangerous things in order to do them well and survive them.
Yeah.
If you try to hug cliffs on skis or base jump or skydive or be a wide water kayaker because you're trying to prove something to yourself or others, it will not end well.
No.
But if you truly do it out of beliefs and aspirations, and because it is what resonates in you, you most likely will do well or increase your chance of survival tremendously.
So we like the increased chances.
Yeah, exactly. The goal is to keep crushing it as long as you can.
Yeah. So. On the flip side of that, how do your parents feel about what you do every day?
My mom hates it. Obviously,
it's a mom's job to do that.
Yeah, and I'm closer to my mountain parents than my own parents because as mountain people, they understand that they're scared.
Right.
They call me their son, and I love them so much. I'm very distant from my parents. I'm not as close to them. My dad understands it because with his past in the commandos, he understands.
Yeah.
He's terrified, but he fully understands. My mom, my biological mom, she's a very superficial lady, so she loves to parade around the mountain village saying that, you know, her son jumped off the summit of Mont Blanc. But on the line, she actually straight up said in my documentary, I'm not proud, you know? So it's, oh, whatever, it's her problem, you know? So.
Yeah, I mean, you're still going to do it, you know?
Yeah, I have a funny story, actually. They didn't know I was base jumping.
Oh, really?
And they knew I was playing around with skydiving, and I told them I was training for something, and it didn't make sense to them. They're like, well, you're a skier, you're not a skydiver. And then when I ski-based hood, I ended up getting the front page of Yahoo, and they had American friends visiting, and they wanted to check their emails. You know, at the time you had to go on the computer, and people weren't carrying smartphones. And their email was on Yahoo, and so they pull up Yahoo, and they go, your son is on the front page of Yahoo. And they're like, what are you talking about? And they clicked on the video, and that's how she learned I was base jumping. I got an angry phone call.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Just don't tell mom.
Yeah, that's it. You know, to all the kids out there, have an established, thorough plan of action. Prepare well. Do not be, you know, a loose cannon trying to take these big bites. Train thoroughly, but it's your life.
Yeah.
You know, and you're in charge of your existence.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
So I only have a couple more quick questions for you. Firstly, you know, any shout outs that you want to make, any sponsors and anything that you want to, you know, give some love to or shout out?
Oh, man, obviously all my sponsors, you know, I can go through the list, but there might be, but yeah, you know, I've been with Lecky for 20 years. I'm all the sponsors. I've been with Thule for 11, Black Yak for many years as well, GoPro for 13 years, Black Rose Skis for 8 years, Rockside Boots for 8 years, ATK, it's a new company. I've only been there with them for 3 years, but they allow me to have the most reliable, best bomber mountaineering bindings to ski some of the nerdiest stuff, you know.
That's awesome.
Vuarnet Eyewear from France. These guys are, you know, legendary brand. Yeah, you know, just great brands. And most importantly, you know, because we're a local podcast, Mount Bachelor.
These guys, shout out Mount Bachelor.
These guys are awesome. I mean, this is a nerdy mountain to work, you know.
Yeah.
The weather is so fickle here, very demanding.
Just the last couple of days, it looked like perfect sunny days for Summit, and then it was 60-mile-an-hour winds blowing explosive charges back towards the ski patrollers if they tried to bomb, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't, it's really hard to work with this mountain, and they do an amazing job just combining it all, you know, and it's really, really difficult to work this mountain. And so, they allow me to train here, you know, on a daily basis. And, you know, I did a talk, an open talk for Men's Journal years ago. They did an event for the 50 most adventurous men, and I was fortunate to be in there. And I did a talk with Alex Honnold, and Alex was saying, people think he climbs without a rope all the time, but they don't realize he's roped in 90% of the time, scouting stuff, paying his dues, working basics, and that. People might think I ski base jump all the time, but no, 90% of the time I'm here at Bachelor, you know, taking hot laps and
like we were talking about earlier, hitting the pinnacles just to practice jump turns and like lap that.
I just did laps after laps, just practicing hop turns before I go to the Alps.
Yeah.
Middle of the season, you'll probably see me on Snapshot going 60 miles per hour, making GS turns to stay calm and handle speed and be able to have strong legs at a high speed. So, you know, Bachelor allows me to do that on a daily basis. And I'm so grateful of it. So it's been it's been a really amazing journey. And so shout out to all my sponsors, of course. You know, everything counts. You know, and when you're an athlete, your career has an expiration date, and you have to maximize and to increase your chances of success. And Bachelor has helped me do that. So thank you so much.
That's very cool, man. I love that. So I don't know how many of my videos you've ever caught on your own before, but the tagline that I put at the end of every video is "Don't forget to enjoy every day," which everyone has their own interpretation of what enjoying every day means. But how do you enjoy every day? How do I enjoy every day?
For me, it would be past enjoyment. It's building my roadmap to fulfillment and self-actualization, to never disconnect. So go to bed with a dream and wake up with a plan.
I love that, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for hopping on the podcast with me. Definitely appreciate you hanging out and taking the time to chat. For anybody out there listening, you can find Matthias over at Super Frenchie. That is his handle on, I'm guessing, all social medias.
Super Frenchie Official on Instagram and Facebook. And then it's Matthias Giroux on X or Twitter, but that's about it. Or superfrenchie.com if you want to hit me up. So,
awesome. Yeah, you guys should definitely go check him out if you like watching crazy, insane stuff. I frequently describe him as the Bend living French Shane McConkey to my friends.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's a big name to live up to. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Again, if you like this and you want to watch more, you can find it at Apres Chats on Spotify and YouTube. I'm working on getting on a few other platforms. You can check me out at Josh Reports on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube if you want your daily dose of stoked out weather reports here in Central Oregon. My next episode, this one should be coming out next weekend, which is the weekend before closing weekend for Mount Bachelor. And the episode after that, I should have the opportunity to sit down with John Merriman, our president here at Mount Bachelor, to talk about the season. So tune in for that one. Tune in for this one. Have a good time. And don't forget to enjoy every day, y'all. Peace.
See ya.